Thank you very much for letting me speak about ARTEMIX and YAFITS. ARTEMIX is a tool is an experiment to do data mining in the ALMA archive, and YAFITS is a remote quick look viewer that we have developed at the Observatory of Paris with those people, Nicolas Moreau, Yaya Waba, and Michel Kaya, who is now retired. So just a few words of introduction about what I've heard these 2 days, very interesting 2 days. We've heard that there are many complementary data to come with the next generation of satellites and telescopes, but also that we are living in the golden age of millimeter and submillimeter astronomy, and this is not going to stop with the future development of instrumentation, in particular on NOEMA, for example. And so there is extremely rich ALMA archive data which is available and need to be exploited, I think. I've also heard that there is a very complex, a lot of complexity for signal extraction, in particular for automated source finders and line identification. And so there is a need of standard methods and tools, and this is difficult to do because it's very model dependent and it's difficult to generalize. So maybe define use cases, science cases on simple stuff at the beginning may help. And there are one other point is the data sets. We have a very large data sets which needs storage, but also computational resources. We've heard about the RAM memory, but also the storage of all those data and the CPU to do the easy but sometimes heavy calculations. And this can be done in the server side rather than in the local side. So I question the model of cloud-based or server-based model of working. So this was one of the motivation of ARTEMIX to experiment this kind of work. And I've noticed also the point of the importance of legacy data and the example which was given this week about the deep field in cosmology domain. And I want to stress the point that the SDSS revolution came with the fact that they produced science-ready data products which were ready to be exploited and by the community, and this gave a huge payback to the extragalactic community. So ARTEMIX, YAFITS, okay. One of the motivation is the difficulty to get ALMA time. You have here the oversubscription, and in particular for Europe, where you see the last call was very hard for us. And these are the plot from the ISO statistics that shows the percentage of paper which are published only from PI data, only from PI data in blue, only from archive data, and with a mix of archive and PI data. You can see that about 40% of the papers are based on archive or fully archive or a mix of PI and archive data. And this is what we did. This is just to talk a little bit about science in cool core clusters, where we compare the observations of ALMA in BCGs, in central cluster galaxies. We had the observation of 3 sources, but we expanded that on about 20 sources, and this was much more interesting, obviously. So we not only compare when we do multi-wavelength comparison, we not only do that for scalar values, but for 2D map and even 3D cubes. So we really need methods to do a comparison with the instruments which are coming. So the work I wanted to show is twofold. There is, as I said, ARTEMIX, which is the experiment of helping to do data mining in the ALMA archive, and YAFITS, which is a viewer of ARTEMIX, which we decided to make a standalone application, which can be used for any directory with FITS that you would like to share on the web with the team or with on the world. So the goals were to have a rapid idea of the data content, not to do analysis, but to have really a quick look. And it was very clear that we needed to do cube previews In particular, it was not at all possible to do that in the ALMA archive, so it was impossible to know what was really in the data, and it took ages to finally download data where nothing interesting was really there. So where we stand just beyond what is provided by the observatory. We use public data and public QA2 FITS file. All that is before that is depend on the observatory and not us. And this is really a pilot study to experiment this remote and server-side work. So we discussed a lot a couple of years ago with people at ISO, and Philippe Salomé in particular, who was responsible of the ALMA Science Archive. And in particular, this is the visualizer of the metadata for ARTEMIX. We realized that with just you know, the table of the result of a database query was very difficult to interpret in terms of what was really present in the data. So we thought that just visualize the frequency coverage and to be able to overplot the lines of interest that are present in those data would help to select the data to visualize. So this is what we did. And this was later implemented in the query interface of the ISO. Just one word about local vs remote work. There are obviously pros and cons. If you work on local, you can have a large range of analysis tools, but you need to download the data, and you're limited by the RAM, memory, or the CPU of your local computer. If you work remotely, then you can have a machine which are optimized for the kind of calculation you want to do. You can also load a lot of, big data sets in memory. You obviously do not need to do anything with your computer. There is no problem of dependency of software or such problems. But obviously, you depend on the web, and you have a limited number of tools to do the analysis, which require specific softwares. So this is the model we developed. We have a disk where we store a local archive of the science data archive, and then we have a server where all the calculations are done on those data, and then a client that you can visualize on your web browser that does a very limited amount of calculation for high speed of visualization. Just to tell about what is in our local archive, we have the full science archive up to 2016. And up to 2017, we decided to take only the small data cubes, which represent about 96% of the full archive. And the remaining fraction is a very small number of files, but which are very big. But we have developed a tool that make it possible to do a download on demand, which means that if the large data cubes are lacking in the local archive, you can download them and then visualize them in ARTEMIX. So how is the interface? It's like this. You have a query tool, which is very limited. You can choose a source, and then you would see all the different projects and Moose ID observations that have been done for this source. You can select some column, and then you would see which frequency which spectral window were observed. We have a guess. This is a resolver with the coordinates of the source, but we also have a guess of the redshift and the velocity of the source that you can modify in this form. And this will grab some theoretical res frequency of theoretical lines, of molecules and species from the VMDC that queries the GPL and CDMS databases. And then you can overplot the expected redshifted frequencies for a given data set. So then you see for each row which kind of molecule you could expect in the data. And then you can switch on the fits, on the different fits which are available. For example, in this for this observation, you have 5 fits. And if I switch to here to fits, you will see the 5 different fits, and you can open them and visualize them and check if the line is there. So this is just basically what I said. Just a quick view of what YAFITS is. It's yes, one word is based on the mapping Go view, because I think our community is very used to this viewer, which is powerful to visualize a 3D data cube and to search for signal. We are really used to this kind of visualization. We did that with some recent techno on the web. Basically, the libraries which are open layers, which is the one for Google Maps, and the HiCharts, which is a visualization library for plots, which is used now when you have, you know, plots on your web, on your telephone or tablets. Okay, just one word about the context. There are similar tools that explore the strength of having a remote visualization. And in particular, the YALMA project has developed his own visualizer, which is called Carta, and is working since this year, I think, or end of last year. And the Japanese virtual observatory also provides such a tool. So just a word, these are based on different implementation with different heuristics. This is a new field, and there's, I think, a large potential for remote data inspection. And it's a nice test bed for new methods. As I said, the calculations are done on the server side, and many different methods could be added to have more ways to inspect the data. So there is a room for more experiments. So this is how it looks like. I will not detail this. This is really the Go view, where you have the channel map, the pixel-based spectrum, and the average, you know, over several pixel spectrum here, or the spectrum over a given area. We have implemented different tools where you can smooth the data if sometimes the data, in particular in the ALMA archive, is not at the proper spectral resolution to check if the signal is there. So smoothing was necessary. We've paid attention to be able to load big data cubes. And these are some examples with a lot of data. Obviously, if once you've loaded that, which maybe take a little time, I mean, like on your computer, and when you load the data in memory, but then pan, zoom, and inspecting the data is very fast on the web. And this is another example, which is the more heavy stuff is to load the large images with many pixels. We've implemented some interoperability tools which make it possible to export the images like channel maps or average map into Aladdin viewer. So just on one click, you can have the image in Aladdin, and then you can overplot optical images or I mean different wavelengths, and check overlays to see where your source stands in comparison to other wavelengths. And the same thing for the spectrum. You can export it in CASIS in a simple click. You can also save it on the disk in a FITS format, which is compatible with class, and then you can use class if you want to analyze your single spectra. We have also implemented a search tool which goes and resolves the position of the source in NED. This is interesting for extragalactic astronomy and for sources with redshift. It's not always obvious to know the redshift. So if we have a list of sources, so here there is one, but the table returns a number of sources in a given area, then we can check that it's a proper redshift that has been selected, and then from that, we can overplot the line which is at this redshifted frequency. And the tool that I've described before is also implemented here. We have access to theoretical data sets with res frequencies, and you can play with filters to have a better selection if you have complex lines and stuff like that. This is an example of the different lines you can have, and for example, this one is the CO120, which is in the data. We've tried to do some help, and we need to obviously have a better description of the instrument, but we have already put some tips to define some use cases to help you to use it. This is an example of the 2D viewer. There is also some help, and here we have a little bit more tools like contours and markers and stuff like that. And for the different, for example, for the contours or for the box, we can extract the flux and have different statistics of the signal inside the box. So it's very easy to have a very fast idea of the signal that is present in the data. We've also implemented YAFITS query, which is a tool which enables to query the FITS database based on the header keywords. So here, for example, I've done a query that will go and search for frequency if this range of frequency is available is present in the data, and it will return all the FITS file which have a frequency where potentially the CO423 could be present in the data. The YAFITS is available via Docker, so for an easy install, you don't have to do anything, just install Docker and then deploy the image. It's also available on GitLab to download. So I think I'm late, so I'm going to stop there. If you have any question or if you use the tool and you have any problems, please send us an email and we will be happy to interact with you and fix the problem if there is, if we can. And and I've put a small video here in the link where you can see what's possible to do. Okay, thank you.
There is a question from Jerome.
It's not a question, it's a comment, but he knows already. On my wish list, I would like to, because you have in YAFITS, you have the possibility to view 3D cubes and images, and single spectrums would be useful.
You know that I know.
Are there other questions, maybe on the Zoom that I don't see?